We're broadcasting live, not live, but pre-recorded, let's say. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is my adventures. I grew up in North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, 3045 Crescent View Drive, North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, a few houses away from Edgemont Village, okay? So we're going to talk about those interesting days. Maybe we should just start in with my mother going to Hollywood Hospital, which is the LS3 treatment center in New Westminster, British Columbia, Canada. Okay. Dr. Ogden, or Dr. Tomorrow, was in charge at the time. There was Dr. McFarland, Dr. McLean, Dr. McDonald, Dr. Warner, my doctor, next door neighbor, Dr. Webb. A little bunch of doctors and other people. Okay. So, going into the history of Edgemont Village, these doctors were doing all kinds of things that were like signing contracts and for my mother to go for treatment for LSD, which she experienced it and was actually enjoyed it. Now, if you want to look up Dr. Tomorrow or Frank Ogden, do so, or Hollywood Hospital, do so. So those are some of my adventures with doctors and some of the stuff going on in that time frame. There was also McDonald. Dr. McDonald took care of Errol, Flynn, an actor up in the British properties, by the way. You can fact check this stuff if you want to. Let's talk of the town and with Dr. McDonald and a few others. And a bit of a scandal going on about it all anyway, but I remember that. I didn't, I know these doctors, they would come and go and do this and do that. So Dr. Frank Ogden, recently, 2005, maybe, he, I believe I was talking to him. I didn't know he was in charge of Hollywood Hospital. But it was an interesting time. In that time frame, there was first introduction to a TV series as well called The Littlest Hobo. It was about a dog who would travel around the world, or around Canada, that is, but that's when I first seen them film it, and there was a gentleman there faking somebody falling off a cliff. The guy would fall off a hole dug with a mattress at the bottom. My mother knew the owner of the dogs. He had two dogs. There's Hobo and the other same dog up on Skyline Drive in North Vancouver. And she always remembered her driving up there. So that's some of the history I'd like to talk about today a little bit of. I'm not going to make it too long and boring, but oh geez, so there was that, and other issues. Other issues was the collapse of Second Errol's Bridge, or the Iron Workers Memorial Bridge, which I seen. That was pretty scary. So yeah, and there was an airplane crash in Grouse Mountain that later on we'd go up there and look for pieces and parts, which are many pieces of fuselage laying around, which Mark Murphy and I would go and get it and don't know what we're going to do with it. We had a grand plan of rolling the engine down the cliff. Yeah, right. Very heavy piece and would never get down there because all the trees would interfere. She was totally stupid. But anyway. So that's some of the doctor stuff. Dr. Webb was our next door neighbor. He would get drunk on the weekends with his wife, who was a nurse at the hospital. Not Hollywood, but North Vancouver General Hospital, or whatever it's called. There was St. Paul's Hospital, there's Woodlands Hospital, there was Essendale, all kinds of spooky, secret junk going on. I remember in my parents' home, they got drunk and they're crawling around the floor. It was rather interesting to see my dad down on the floor crawling around, totally plastered. How they got over hangovers was, well, they would sniff pure oxygen. So, yeah, pure oxygen. Yeah. What other history? There's Danny Larissa, Michael Angus, and I. Michael Angus and I trapped a sex pervert named Kinney. And Michael Angus actually is in the news, Vancouver Sun. You can look it up if you dare to be unexplored old stuff like what we're doing. But we told the RCMP this guy had kids going and coming and going out of this shack down the ravine area, as it's called. There's a small ravine behind my house, 3045 Grandview Drive, North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And Mutual 507 or something. Anyway, that's his phone number. But we did that week, and then the RCMP got him. Angus made the news, so I didn't, but anyway. Then there was a balloon episode. I was making hydrogen balloons, wrapped them in tinfoil, thin tinfoil, sent them up in the air, and that caused a big fracas. In North Vancouver, it was in Vancouver, they thought there was a UFO invasion because on a sunny day these things would reflect sunlight. So the neighbors called in the news media who came around, interviewed me, filmed me doing this thing, and talked about me and wrote up. I got some of the clippings actually. I don't have the videos, I don't think. Don't know what's on the big hard drive that Matthew acquired. But Matthews was here on the weekend doing a live stream, and he got the hard drive, luckily, and we'll upload everything on it, like 3 terabytes. I think it was 3 terabytes of stuff. So the old stuff, the new stuff, blah, blah, blah. So all the free energy stuff, all the demonstration stuff, all the TV shows. So stand by. I was offered $1,000, but can't even charge for that thing. I said no, and then there's somebody else wanted it too, but I don't know why they want it, but I know that Matthew is a genuine, honest person, and I trust him with it. I know he'll do the right thing. We had a lot of fun together with Matthew and EVO and that, but back to history. Okay, so that was some of the history I'm talking about. I know, I do funny videos, so what? Leave a kind comment, don't be such a dork. Some of these people are just nuts, they don't have no experience in life. Just, I call them internet people that live on Facebook and phone, you talk through phone, whatever. Internet people, it's kind of dumb. That's why probably the election was won. All these people are living in a fantasy world of Facebook and X and all these things, you know. But, you know, I'm going to talk about, you know, I never heard of a country electing a criminal. And criminals, what a wad of horrific garbage these politicians are. But anyway, I had my run-in with Pierre Elliott Trudeau in 1978, and we'll talk about the history going back to Edgemont Village, where Trudeau's wife, Margaret Sinclair, or Maggie we used to call her, lived on Highland, close to Edgemont Village as well, and as a kid. And there was Lonnie Truesdale. I wonder if any of these names, where happened to all these people? Maggie, okay, married Trudeau, but my mother was upset over that whole thing, and, well, I had a squirt gun full of ink, and I let Maggie Trudeau have it. So maybe that's why he's got, the Trudeaus have a thing about guns, I don't know. But that's just, I'm releasing a lot of his funny old history that's kind of funny. And somebody could use this stuff maybe for go along with the release of some of the other stuff that's going on these days. And a movie's supposed to be made by Benedict Nuria, but I don't know. And the book's supposed to be released by Bob Greener, but I don't know either. But anyway, on back to those early days in North Vancouver. Yeah, littlest hobo, cute little guy. And a nice show, a really nice, honest show. Kids would love it. It's uploaded on YouTube, by the way, so I found that by searching The Littlest Hobo, episode 1. I can recognize some of the neighbors, I think. I don't know. But they would do location shoots, just not Edgemont Village, but they do a lot in Edgemont, because it's close to where they live. I forget the owner's name of the dogs, but it's really fun stuff. Oh yeah, who else can I brag about? This is really funny. An actor, I'm trying to remember the TV series, The Lone Ranger or something like that, came up to Edgemont's Village, pulled out his guns and fired blanks. I believe they were blanks, but my sister and I, that was their highlight. My sister and I were looking, believe it or not, looking around for the bullets. Margot Hutchison, by the way, brother is Michael Hutchison, but looking around for the bullets in Edgemont Village. Can you believe that? It was probably just blanks, you know. The Lone Ranger. I always remember that. What year was that? Riding his horse in Edgemont Village. Being like us kids were like glued to TV sets most of the time. That's a memory just popped in my head when I started talking about Errol, Flynn, and Dr. McFarlane, Dr. McDonald, Dr. McLean, Dr. Warner, Dr. Webb. Free association is fun. It's hilarious. It was something. Oh, yeah. Oh, some years later, I met William Shatner, who was doing Safeway commercials. That was in the early 70s. He had 2 big dogs. That's kind of ironic. Come being a Star Trek fan, meeting Bill Shatner and my business partner. I call him semi-business partner. He was helping with the power cells and building them, and he did excellent videos on the power cells in around 2003, I think. And that'll be, Matthew will find all those videos and Grant doing this stuff and that, but years later, Grant was living with William Shatner. So isn't that funny? Different weird timelines that went on through life. And I was a little tiny little part of it. It's just interesting. I love history, so I'm going to, this kind of popped out of nowhere last night looking up on YouTube these names. Frank Ogden, Dr. Tavaro, and his LSD stuff, and Sandow's Company, provider of LSD for the patients at Hollywood Hospital, which has now been demolished and something else built there. It's kind of hilarious going back in time. So anyway, let's see what else I can free associate. So, yeah, Daniel Larissa and potassium chlorate and sugar blew a telephone pole in half and killed himself doing it. His dad was, oddly, representing Britannia encyclopedias, whereas my dad was representing Collier's encyclopedias. And Jerry, Rhodey, I'm not sure these names, maybe somebody knows these people. Jerry, Rhodey, Bill McDonald. Bill McDonald, where are you? Where's Stan Redjack? But jumping all the way up to the 80s, I met Tesla's friend, Thomas Lee Richardson, a number of times, who came to my lab and visited, and his friend Stan, my friend too, Stan Redjack, R-A-J-E-C, worked for a scrap company. Last I found out, but Stan and I would hang out with Thomas Lee and all those documents and papers, which some will be scanned by Matthew, I'm sure. O Canada, written by Thomas Lee Richardson, and other things. I don't know if the book is scanned. And Thomas Lee wrote about Tesla and his encounters with him. But anyway, it'll all get out there someday. But anyway, they're just going on, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yeah, so it brings up to the Canon episode at the Armory, North Vancouver. Jace Fell Armory. JP Fell Armory. 101 Thunderbird Squadron. Air Cadets owned the cannon, sold it to Amic Salvage, where Stan works. For $200, the Amic Salvage person tried to take it apart and got killed, in doing so by the springs. I learned this through the newspaper articles. The North Shore News covered a lot of stuff. But I then called Amic, talked about it, and it was sold for only $200. But they said to me, you have our permission to do whatever you want with it. We don't want to deal, and you be careful. Because it has these massive springs in it. And the scandal was, the military said, well, we took all the springs out of it at the airport. Not true. It was loaded full of springs, by the way. Some of them at least a foot or more in diameter by an inch thick. It was in buffer tubes. Wow, I had one of those pieces too. And the shaft that snapped off, what happened was he torched 2/3 of the way through a 2.5-inch retaining pin, and he put his torch down, from what I gathered from the other people. He went around to adjust something on the torches, and that thing broke, the springs broke the retaining pin and hit him in the face, and the retaining pin, or the springs, hit the armory and made a huge bang kind of thing. Poor guy died instantly, I guess. That terrible stuff that's been suppressed. A lot of stuff's been suppressed. So I'm bringing it out. But anyways, JP Film Armory in North Vancouver. I don't know if anybody will ever find an article in the North Shore News on all that, or other news. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. And the gun was taken away by somebody, stole a gun from me. And I brought that up to gun collectors in Canada that were searching for serial numbers. And I got emails from the gun collectors and all that stuff. And they don't know. But there's records deep hidden, like for Hollywood Hospital and LSD. Those records apparently went with Dr. Ogden. Or Dr. Tomorrow, whatever you want to call him. Frank Ogden. Some of my mother's records are somewhere hidden away. Quite interesting stuff. I'm a history buff. That's why I like learning all the time about history, or watching about it, or reading about it. Especially the American early West, and now I read a lot about it. And some of the old-time scientists, of course, like Tesla and others. You learn a lot, when you go into history, which I believe I've done a lot of searching for stuff. But what other history? Somebody cut Lynn Valley, North Vancouver. I worked at the Ecology Center. I remember somebody cut the main, had a bridge across the river, suspension bridge, and somebody cut one of the main cables. The RCMP came and checked and looking for evidence below the bridge. I remember that. How long did I work there? I was with Vicky McMillan, George Walton, early 70s, I think several years, and that's when Vicky McMillan and I met William Shatner. Then later on, of course, Bill McDonald and I met William Shatner. He had 2 big dogs in a trailer where he lived. So I love bringing up history. It's kind of fun. Because nobody knows about it in this day and age. It's all Facebook junk. I don't go to Facebook anymore. I find it extremely boring. I like videos or interesting emails or history, but I'm not on X or whatever you want to call it. What's the point? Nothing becomes real. It's all fantasies. But anyway, what I like is searching eBay and finding friends on eBay and communicating and making deals on eBay because things turn into reality. I have to pay for it sometimes, most of the time. I met a real good friend in Massachusetts. He's basically my double. I'm not kidding. And I'm not going to mention any names. It's none of your business. Okay? Good. Anyway, so if you have any information on what I'm talking about, like Lotus Hobo, Dr. McFarland, Dr. McDonald, Dr. McLean, Dr. blah, 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 Warner, Dr. Webb, who else is in the characters? M.B. Kahn, Dr. M.B. Kahn, K-A-U-H-N, psychologist, and Mr. Volomia, North Shore College, another buried piece of history, along with Channel 8 Dance Party. My sister and I are regulars on that. Love to see that stuff. And I was on the Vancouver show with Michael Winlaw. That's another one. That's in the 70s, wasn't it? You ever heard of Michael Winlaw? And then there was Alan Thicke's show. Billy Ross and I would go to the Alan Thicke show, and we'd get a studio audience a box of beans, which would be hauling on the bus. Oh, well. It was interesting, though. Studio audience. So, yeah, TV shows and other crazy stuff. But anyway, what else can I remember of well, my friend Bill McDonald lived up in British property, so it was his dad who was a member of Parliament, John McDonald, MP, member of Parliament. His dad was kind of reasonable, but Billy liked to go junk hunting and do other things, so I wonder where he is these days. Wow. Yeah, Bill McDonald and I went out to camp behind West Lawn building at Riverview Hospital because they had a scrapyard there. And we camped behind West Lawn, Essendale, Riverview, and broke into the scrapyard and pulled out a whole pile of stuff and took off. Other fun things is 15 bears at the landfill, Linmore Village. 15 bears. So why I'm doing this is I'd like to pull out some of the characters I met over the years. Already got an email some years ago from one of the Murphy family kids. Not Michelle Murphy, but oh wow, that's bad. We can't remember her. I used to babysit the kids, you know. She is now grown up and into law and order in the USA. I think it's a penal system. She's like, unbelievable. I got an email from her a long time ago. I got a long email and she thanked me for showing all the stuff to like the lathe running, and she used one of my cannons as a horse kind of thing. And she keeps saying Michelle Murphy, but she had, the Murphys had 3 kids, Michelle, Mark, and then Melinda. Yeah, Melinda. We hung out together and did stuff, but that was a nice email. Thank you, Melinda. If you're around, I don't know who's around anymore these days. Jeez, I wonder how the hobbits in Austria are doing. I know I met Zai at at East Point, Florida, when they're doing oil elimination in the water. They showed up there this is some years ago. Balloon Boy, as they call himself, or Richard Heaney and his family. I hung out with them for a while. And there was Koryanka Kelcher, who was in a major motion picture who also tied herself to a fence by the White House. Laid on news about oil pollution. I met her parents and Zai Zai, who's now a young man, for Pete's sake. I might even still have Zai Zai's parting letter. It was East Point, Florida, Sportsman Lodge, which unfortunately got wiped out by a hurricane now. Who else did I meet there? Oh, the Navy guy. The Navy guy, which I'm still in contact with. Oh my goodness. It gets interesting when you go back in time with your head. So Richard Heaney, I did a called Bear Scratch for Richard Heaney, a commercial. See, my mind out of that goes back to the Ecology Center where I did 2 commercials on eating how Americans eat. I went to Argentina TV. Okay, let's go back to 2012, 13, and all that time frame was kind of interesting. So I'm wandering all over the place, but that's free association, and that's what I was trained to do. Okay, free associate, doctor. But anyway, Sportsman Lodge. There was Kaka, who's now a young lady, and her family. Wow, it's kind of fun doing this free associating and history stuff. But anyway, I want to get this out kind of thing. I hope I am recording. Good, it's going to be a long video, but okay, so all these names might catch somebody attention, or might even say, whoa, I remember that lunatic John me. So it's fun doing this. What else can I free associate into? Oh. There was West Flynn Military Surplus Store on Front Street, New Westminster. Wesley Baker, who appeared on Beyond Adventure with me, who saw big effects happen, Hutchison effect stuff, of metal blowing up and falling apart. So that's Wesley Baker. And there was Adrian Elliott Stone, wanted now by the RCMP, the reward for him. And it's $5,000. 101 convictions of extortion of people not allowed into the USA. So he could be in Mexico or in the Middle East. There's somebody looking for him. He put a little website on there. HutchisonEffect.ca, and stole lots of money, put up false names, and there's videos of them. I got a video of them on on Carla B. Connection's YouTube channel. I have a video of him going nuts over his boat in the river, Fraser River. So, Adrian Elliott Stone, are you still alive, or did they catch you, or deep six you, or whatever? Stan, Red REJCK, contact me. Make a note. Billy McDonald, contact me. Make a note. But I haven't talked to my relatives for years. Margot Hutchison, and his son calls me Uncle John, which is kind of funny, but feels odd, but I don't know. He was on Messenger on Facebook, and we communicate. His name is Hutch, Hutch, I think. He's on Facebook. But there are some folks I do know in real life that are on Facebook. Most of them, there's only a few I know. Like Colonel Alexander and Timmy Ventura and some others, Debbie and some local folks here. But anyway, I think I'm running out of memory space myself, so I should shut up and go have a cigarette or something. But I just wanted to do this history thing, might catch somebody's attention. Might leave me a message, or maybe not, or maybe nothing happens like most of the time. But it's interesting to do it. Now, any other ancient memories? Probably there is. The Constable Green, he's probably long gone. He would chase us around like I was shooting a rifle up. I think Skyline Drive, actually, in the woods, close to it. But Constable Green really got pissed off in that. It was a .22 caliber, bolt-action rifle, doing target practice with, I believe, Bill McDonald. Constable Green, you can't do that. You can't do. He talked like that. So he grabbed the rifle, threw it in the back of his police cruiser, and took off. And returned later with Constable Bateman. Interesting to return my gun, but also knows I had a sawed-off shotgun. He was a sergeant. Told me it's against the law. What I'll do is go with her mum to Dunderave Dock, and we'll throw it off into the ocean, which he did do with my mother. Another little incident. But I always collected guns up to 1978. There was an issue with Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Passed gun laws, bill, whatever, forget it. But because the RCMP approved border, like buying stuff for numerous arms corporation, like as into 50 caliber Browning machine guns, the spade grips and retraction assembly, he had to come and see me and sign over what I was doing with him, and he did. I might still have that document. Corporal Tate. Then when the bill passed by Trudeau, I guess Tate mentioned something, and then the RCMP came and took my guns, and had quite a crew too. Put me in jail, my only time in jail, for about 8 hours, and opened the door and they say, if you sign this, promise to appear. Which I did do, along with the media and lawyers. That was a huge event, and law books had to be rewritten. According to my lawyer, Flynn, now Marr, who's a gun collector too, is now into cameras. We'll visit here someday. The case was epic and was written up in law books. The RCMP returned with their truck full of machine guns, cannons, and rifles and stuff. And we went after the RCMP through the provincial ombudsman. Sue them. David Davies, was it? Yeah, I think so. But anyway, that's some of the early history, and I'll shut up now and go do something else. So, take care. Bye.